Chapter-3. "Where are we going again, Mom?" Jack asked as he entered the living room with his little suitcase rolling behind him. "To a lodge I used to hang out at a lot," Kaitlyn said, as she gathered the items she had purchased the day before. "Now, I'll have to be working a lot of the time, but there will still be plenty for you to do. However, you should still bring your tablet. Do you have it?" He nodded and pulled the tablet and charger out of his bag. "I brought my bear too, Mom, and all the clothes you told me to." "Good job." She ruffled his hair and ran through her mental list one more time. Kaitlyn had purchased the paint supplies and wallpaper. Melody would be picking up the new furniture and bringing it tomorrow. "Okay, I think we're ready. Let's load up." She locked the door behind them and put the bags in the back of her SUV as Jack climbed up in his car seat and buckled in. Before she started the car, Kaitlyn took a deep breath and sent a prayer up for peace and the ability to do this job without getting stuck in past memories. Kaitlyn pulled into the lot of the lodge and parked the car. "We're here, Jack," she said as she turned off the engine. He looked up from his tablet and nodded. The drive had been quiet as he had been engrossed in a game the whole time. On one hand, it had been nice, as she didn't have to answer his constant questions, but it had also given her lots of time to think and reminisce. She opened the back of the SUV and grabbed the few items she could. She would have to make another few trips, but at least she could get started with these. Jack stood by his car door waiting for her. "Walk carefully, Jack. The snow can be deceiving if there is ice underneath." The walkway was covered with snow from the night before. Kaitlyn stepped carefully to avoid slipping and kept an eye on Jack. She didn't want to damage her goods, or either one of them. This job was too important. Thankfully, it appeared the groundskeeper had laid down salt, as neither the ground nor the porch was very slippery. However, she was forced to juggle her bags when she reached the door. "Here, let me help you with that." Kaitlyn glanced over to see a handsome man striding her direction from the side of the porch. His uniform suggested that perhaps he was the groundskeeper, or at least part of the crew. "Thank you. I suppose I should have remembered I would need a hand to open the door." He smiled at her and pulled the door open. "It happens all the time." Kaitlyn chuckled and dropped her eyes. She supposed that was true. Vacationers always seemed to bring too many bags. She knew she did. Of course, she hadn't been on a vacation in months. Maybe they could afford one after this job. Before she could reply to the man, though, Margie's voice filled the room. "Ah, Kaitlyn, darling, are we ready to begin then?" Margie stepped from behind the desk wearing a bright red suit and a string of pearls. Kaitlyn smiled as she set down her items. It appeared Margie hadn't changed much in the time Kaitlyn had been away. Her Christmas outfits were always delightful and entertaining. Kaitlyn had once asked Dillon how many she had, and he claimed she owned 32, one for every day in December, and a spare one in case one got dirty. They had tried to sneak into her closet once so he could prove it, but she had caught them and given them a tongue lashing. Evidently, her closet was where she kept Christmas gifts until they were wrapped as well, and she hated when recipients ruined their surprise. "Well, almost. I have a few more bags in the car and I'm waiting for the crew." Margie's eyes flicked to the man behind Kaitlyn. "Julian, will you be a dear and get the rest of the items Kaitlyn needs?" "Oh, no, that's okay. I can get them myself," Kaitlyn said hurriedly. "Nonsense, dear. It is part of Julian's job description." Kaitlyn looked to the sandy-haired man. A reddish-blonde beard covered the bottom of his face, but it was his penetrating gaze that unnerved her. He shrugged and flashed a charming smile. "It is part of my job. Tell me what you drive and I'll be happy to get what you need." "Okay." Kaitlyn said. She held out her keys. "It's the blue Honda CR-V out front. The bags I need are in the back." He took the keys and stepped back out the front door. "You must be Jack," Margie said, turning her attention to Kaitlyn's son. He nodded. "Well, it's nice to meet you, Jack. While we wait for Julian, shall I show you to your room? I'm afraid I only had 2 available, so I hope your crew doesn't mind sharing." "I'm sure it will be fine. The crew is 2 brothers, so they're probably used to sharing." Kaitlyn grabbed her personal items, nudged Jack to walk ahead of her, and followed Margie up the stairs and down the hallway. She stifled a sigh when Margie opened up the sunshine room. Kaitlyn hadn't been at the lodge in ages, not since her senior year, but she had spent the last few days looking over the layout and knew where each room was. The sunshine room was her least favorite room. She had never been a fan of yellow walls or the false cheeriness they tried to instill. As Margie opened the door, Kaitlyn tried to keep her face stoic. The room was worse than she remembered. The bright yellow wallpaper was cracked and peeling, eliciting a creepy feeling, and the faded flowered bedspread oozed depression. "We're staying here?" Jack's little face scrunched in confusion, and Kaitlyn shot him a warning look to be quiet, complete with gritted teeth behind a tight smile. "Oh, I'm sorry about this. Perhaps I should have you redo this room when you're done with the living room," Margie said as she glanced around the room. "It will be fine, Margie. I'm here for work, remember? And Jack will be fine. But I would be happy to redo this room. I've never been a fan of yellow." "Yes, I'm not sure what I was thinking either," Margie said with a laugh. Kaitlyn set her bag down on the bed and motioned for Jack to do the same. They then followed Margie back to the main room. "Okay, so the first thing we need to do is move the furniture out of the room." "Maybe we can help with that." Kaitlyn turned toward the front door and smiled. The men she had hired had arrived. Ryan, her carpenter, and his brother Richard. These 2 were not only great handymen, but added muscle. "Ryan, Richard, I'd like you to meet Margie Fields, the owner." "Pleased to make your acquaintance, ma'am," Ryan said, as he took off his cowboy hat and issued a little bow. Richard said nothing but repeated the gesture. "Now, that accent doesn't sound Coloradoan to me," Margie said, as she appraised the 2 men. "No, ma'am. We're from Montana originally. We came out here to visit a cousin once and liked it so much we decided to move." "Ah, that would explain it then. Well, welcome to Fields Lodge." "Margie, is there somewhere we can put the furniture until I can get a truck here to haul it away?" Kaitlyn asked. Melody would be coming up in the morning with the new pieces. "I can show them a place outside," Julian said from the doorway. In his arms were the rest of her bags. "Thank you. That would be lovely. You can just put those bags down in the corner." Julian obliged and handed Kaitlyn back her keys. Then he waited until Ryan and Richard had a couch in hand, and he opened the door and led them outside. "Jack, how about you come in the kitchen with me?" Margie asked, touching his shoulder. "I made a plate of chocolate chip cookies." Jack turned eager eyes to Kaitlyn, and she smiled and nodded. "Just one, though. I don't want you to ruin your appetite for dinner." When Jack and Margie filed out of the room, Kaitlyn took the opportunity to inspect the walls. They appeared to be in decent shape, but she needed to make sure they were clean and devoid of holes. The men reappeared and took the next couch out as Kaitlyn continued scanning the walls. About the time they finished clearing the furniture, she had finished her inspection. "The walls look good. I think we can begin painting tonight and getting the wallpaper up." "Wonderful," Margie said, clapping her hands from the kitchen entryway. Then how about we take a break and I'll whip us up some food?
That sounds lovely, ma'am. Richard and I would like to clean up first. Is there any way you could show us to our room?
Ryan asked as he glanced up the stairs. Oh, yes, of course. Follow me. Margie led the men upstairs, leaving Kaitlyn alone in the living room with Julian.
Will your husband be joining the two of you as well?
He asked, as Kaitlyn reviewed her mental list. Painting and wallpapering. She wanted Ryan to build a new mantel for the fireplace, pick up whatever pieces Melody hadn't been able to acquire, and, of course, sew the pillows. The list was daunting, but she still believed they could be done in time. No, Jack's father is no longer in the picture, she said slowly.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'd best get back to work. Please don't hesitate to call if you need anything.
Sure, thank you. As the man left, Kaitlyn wasn't sure if he was just being nice or if he was attracted to her. Dillon set his drink down and waved to his friend Grant as he entered through the restaurant. Grant nodded and made his way through the crowd to where Dillon was sitting.
What's up, man? Not much. Just wanted to hang out before I leave for the holidays. You want to get a booth?
He nodded toward a free booth in the back.
Sure.
Grant followed him to the booth and folded his long frame in.
Where are you going?
Dillon slid into the other side and set his drink down.
Back to my parents' lodge in Keystone.
Grant's head fell forward and his brow arched.
You got Shauna to go to a lodge in Colorado? This I gotta hear.
Dillon rolled his eyes and chuckled. Grant knew Shauna too well.
No, Shauna and I broke up. It's just me going.
A low whistle escaped Grant's mouth.
I thought you were looking at rings.
Dillon rolled his eyes.
I was. How crazy was that? Well, how did she take it?
Dillon swirled the straw in his drink.
What do you mean? She told me it was my loss, and there were a dozen other men lined up for her. Probably true, too. I mean, you've seen her. Wow, what a piece of work. Why were you with this girl again?
Grant picked up the menu from the holder on the end of the table and scanned the options. That was a good question. One Dillon had been asking himself for the last few hours. 6 months of his life was just gone. 6 months and a few paychecks he would never get back. I honestly don't know. I guess I thought our love of photography would be enough to sustain a relationship. You mean your love of photography and her love of being photographed? Yes, well, needless to say, it didn't work out. Grant lowered the menu and stared evenly at Dillon.
You've been dating one wrong girl after the other since I met you. What exactly are you running from?
Dillon shook his head, surprised that his friend was so perceptive.
I think my past. Lately, I can't get this girl out of my head. My ex-girlfriend from high school. Ooh, now this is good.
Grant set the menu on the table and folded his hands over it, leaning forward.
Who is she, and where is she now? Her name was Kaitlyn Bell. I don't know if it still is. I haven't seen or heard from her since I left nearly 10 years ago. If this girl meant so much to you, then why'd you leave?
The waitress appeared at the table and took their food order. Dillon was glad for the slight reprieve to gather his thoughts.
I don't think I knew how much she meant to me. I was young and stupid, and I didn't know what I had. She wanted to go to design school, and I wanted to see the world. However, I realized recently that every woman I've dated, I've compared to her. Man, you gotta find this girl and see what's going on with her now. Otherwise, you got no hope for a future relationship.
Dillon nodded. Grant was a wise man and a good friend. The only problem was, he had no idea how to even begin looking for Kaitlyn.